I am Brad Keelor. He is Farshid Vahedifard. Next on Director's Cut, find out something surprising about current ASCE President Dennis Truax. Hello everybody and welcome to another episode of Director's Cut. My name is Brad Keelor. I'm the director of the Geo-Institute, and that is why we call this show Director's Cut. Every week I sit down with a different GI member who has stories to tell. Sometimes they're personal, sometimes they're professional, all of them are fun. This week, you may notice that I am not in my sunroom. I am not in my basement. I am not even on my patio. We are coming to you sort of live from Savannah, Georgia, where we are having the Geo-Extreme conference this week. It is exciting to see GI members again. Hopefully some of you watching this were there with us or watched some of the keynotes on the live stream. Whatever you were able to do, thanks for watching. If you like what you see today, and I think you will, click subscribe, click get notifications. We will let you know every time we post a new video to our YouTube channel, which is frequently. My guest this week has been intimately involved in the planning for the Geo-Extreme conference. He is our technical chair. From Mississippi State University, Professor of Civil and Environmental Engineering, it is Farshid Vahedifard. Thank you for being with us today, Farshid.
Thank you, Brad, for having me. It's great to be here. As you said, we are all very excited to be back in an in-person event, and it's very good to see all people again. Thanks for having me.
So we have 10 questions, the same way we always do. There are 2 that we ask everyone, and we start with one of those. Describe your job in 45 seconds.
The short answer is, as you said, I'm a professor of civil engineering at Mississippi State University. I do teaching, I do research and advising, and also serving the community and the profession. The most exciting part of my research is to identify big picture problems that we can address and tackle them. I do a lot of paperwork as a part of my job, and I do work with the students in the classroom and outside the classroom.
So I like those big picture things. We will get to one of those big picture issues later on in the interview. For now, we have to hit some of the fun questions as well. The first one I'm going to throw at you is to talk about your favorite chair. When I wrote this question, I thought, I wonder if he will think department chair. We are not talking about department chairs here, and we will get to that in a little bit as well. But this is a favorite chair that you sit on.
That's a great question to start. Yes, that's not the department chair, but my favorite chair is a recliner that we have in our home. And it's kind of my safe place to hide, from our 6-year-old twins and kind of take a break. And that's my favorite chair.
More details necessary. How old is it? What color is it? And do the kids use it?
It's 6 years old. The same age as the twins, and it's a great chair. And of course, as you can imagine, the twins do whatever they want with the chair. But fortunately, the chair has been able to survive. That's the best part of this chair.
Did you use it to put them to sleep when they were little? Did it work?
Of course, it was the magical part of the chair, and that was the starting part of my love story with this chair.
Excellent. And so now you've got all these memories tied to it, and you make more every day. So we have to ask some questions about your research too. And the first one that we're going to ask about is remote sensing. Do you remember the first time that you saw remote sensing used in geotech research or practice, and what did you think about it at the time?
The first time that I heard the term remote sensing, I was asking myself, what does it mean? Does it mean that it makes sense remotely? But then it happened to be part of my research project. We needed to use remote sensing. Of course, not classic geotech area, and I have to start searching. And believe me, I started using like Wikipedia, not the best reference, but I was just Googling how to do, what does LiDAR mean? What does like all those terminologies. So that's how I started dealing with remote sensing and learning about remote sensing. Along the way, I felt the need to learn more. So that's how I started doing a graduate degree in remote sensing and GIS. And since then, I've been using remote sensing for different applications in geotechnical engineering.
So I think one of the most interesting things to me about remote sensing is how many different disciplines, how many different fields use it for whatever application they need it for. What's the most interesting or the most unexpected use of remote sensing that you've seen throughout your career?
Very true. Different fields, they're using remote sensing, airborne, spaceborne, or like ground-based remote sensing techniques. I would say the wildest, application to me was the application of remote sensing for health monitoring. It was very, outside the kind of application that I was thinking about remote sensing.
It's really good, and I'm sure, I've seen it for pollutant transport. I want to check out some of these health applications now. So one of the questions I had to put in here, you are, of course, at Mississippi State University, and I would imagine that something you did early on in your time there is to go see the Mississippi River. I think when anybody sees it for the first time, you just have this feeling, I don't know, whether it's that you're impressed by it or surprised, or I don't know, I guess maybe there are some people who are not impressed by the Mississippi. But how did you feel the first time you saw it?
That's interesting that you waited for 3-4 questions to ask this question, because whenever you tell somebody that you work in Mississippi State University, the first question is, how does Mississippi River look like? That's the first immediate question. And it was my first question when I visited, Mississippi State for the first time. But we are about like 2 or 3 hours, from Mississippi River. But the first time that I saw the river, it was breathtaking. It was anything other than what I was thinking about the river. It was more like I don't know, like ocean or something.
Yeah.
It's not a typical river that you would think, But it was breathtaking, seeing that huge.
I think it's really shocking when you see some of the numbers and you see how many gallons of water are moved every day through that. And I get what you're saying. For those of you who have never seen it, there are beaches along the river, and you would feel like you were not on a river. A lot of people think, like you said, that they could throw a rock across something you would call a river. Do not try to throw a rock across the Mississippi River. You will hurt your arm.
In some sections, the width of the river is over a mile.
Yeah, it's intense.
It's
so not even a golf ball. You could not hit a golf ball over the river. So another question about Mississippi State that we're going to ask. The current ASCE president this year, 21-22, is Dennis Truax, who's one of your colleagues at Mississippi State. So I had to ask, what's something about Dennis that might surprise ASCE members to hear?
First, Dennis Truax was the department head who hired me. Thanks for offering me the job, Dennis.
So is he your other favorite chair?
I still remember the first time that I met Dennis Truax. It was the time that I visited Mississippi State for the first time for my interview. He came to the airport to pick me up. We have a regional airport. It's like you need to be there 10 minutes before your flight and you're fine, And he showed up in the airport to pick me up. And the first thing that I thought when I saw him, I said he should be an artist. He was anything other than a department head. I thought this guy looks like a Sean Connery or something like that. And then I was very surprised with his warm hospitality, and that's one of the reasons that I decided to join Mississippi State. He's great, and I have to congratulate him for his brilliant career at Mississippi State University. He just retired. So I have a lot of great memories with Dennis. One thing about Dennis that always comes to my mind when I think about him is how passionate he is about the profession. How passionate he is about making time to work with the students. And I always remember that from him. No matter how busy he is, he makes time to meet with every single student, to answer their questions and make sure nobody is left behind.
Which is something I think you would have to not overlook because, you know, it's just like when you run a business, you're not there if it's not for your customers. If there were no students at the university,
for sure.
you guys would not really have a whole lot to do.
That's for sure.
So, and I think a lot of people know this, but probably not everybody. Dennis is also a pilot. And do you have any stories about him flying you anywhere?
I remember during the first visit, before then I used to live in the East Coast, and he was telling me, don't worry, if you want to visit DC area, it's just about 2 hours from here. I was thinking, it should be more than 2 hours. And then along the way he said, by the way, I'm a pilot, and you know, I have a plane, so that's why I said 2 hours. I said, for me, it will take longer, I guess.
Until that, you just thought he drove like a maniac.
Yeah, it was just scratching my head. Something wrong here. I guess this is a different Saturn scale than like what we have.
So a few more to go. We're in the back half of the interview now. The other question that we ask absolutely everybody who comes on Director's Cut is, how did you first get involved with ASCE and GI?
I think the first time that I got involved with the ASCE and GI was back in 2008. I was still doing my PhD at the University of Delaware, and my advisor, Chris Meehan, encouraged me to get involved, and I remember that was my first experience with GI and ASCE.
And all these years later, technical chair at a conference now, and we're happy to have you. So what is the most exciting thing now about being involved with GI?
Honestly, I think GI offers a unique opportunity to students, to professors, to all people involved in the geotechnical engineering area to become like a family. Everybody can learn something, can take something by getting involved in GI, and that's the best part of it. Very active technical committees. Those were very helpful. I remember the first technical committee, interestingly, I still remember that the first technical committee that I attended their meeting was embankments, dams, and the slopes. And interestingly, that's the committee that I continued working over the past, 12, 13 years.
And that's the committee that organized much of Geo-Extreme this week, and we're going to have a good time. So another thing about you is you grew up in Iran.
Yep.
I think for a lot of Americans, people have a lot of stereotypes about Iran. They have a lot of what they think is the way it is in their head, and Iran's a really complicated place. For you, growing up there in the 90s, what was the most, I used the word exciting, what was the most, exciting, thrilling, different thing about growing up in Iran in the 90s?
Yes, Iran, or overall the Middle East, is complicated. I wish more American could travel to Iran and have it like a close, first-hand experience. And that could change a lot of those stereotypes. In my case, I was fortunate that I had my high school years and college year during the time that there were a lot of changes in the country.
Right.
Several movements in the country, and that was a unique opportunity to get involved in different, I would say, activities in the high school, in the college, and get involved in activities well beyond being like in a college student. And I appreciate those experiences that they were very helpful to shape my my personality and get me mature in that community. Iran is a four-season country, very diverse in terms of different languages, different cultures, and having the experience to work with all these people from different cultures was a unique experience, and I enjoyed it. I was fortunate to get involved in different, I would say, the artistic or like social or cultural activities, which were unique. Of course, I was not the best student in college, but I was fortunate to have the opportunity to get involved in those, I would say, activities.
And you were probably not the worst student either, though.
We can discuss about it.
It's okay to end up in the middle. So we always come back to three topics on Director's Cut, I feel like. It's like sports, music, and food. So I have to ask you, what's your favorite food from Iran, and where can you get it easily in the States?
Of course, kebab.
Yeah.
Kebab is my favorite food. here in Georgia, there are a lot of good Middle Eastern or Iranian restaurants. Yeah, you can try it. Kebab is my favorite food. And if you haven't tried, try it.
Inspirational. I will second that. Everyone should be eating kebabs. So another big, I mentioned the big picture stuff, and you mentioned the big picture stuff early on, and we're going to talk about one of those issues now, and that's climate change. It's something that's on the agenda here at Geo-Extreme this week. The COP26 meeting is happening now, if anybody's paying attention to that. This is obviously a global issue, but it's a local one as well. I think especially here in Savannah, sea level rise is a really big deal. What effect or impact of climate change freaks you out the most, and what are you doing in your work to help mitigate it?
That's a very timely question. That I would say climate change has impact in every aspect of our life. Yeah. The most freaking part about climate change is not, to me at least, it's not the effect that climate change has. The most freaking part is to see that a large group of, or a percentage of people, they think climate change is not for us. That's the most freaking thing about climate change. Everybody has to believe that this is not a luxury topic. This is not something, this is not for me. That's the most dangerous thing about climate change. Everybody has to believe there is something related to climate change in their work. And if we stop ignoring climate change, then everybody can have their own share to address this issue. Climate change has impact on natural environment. Climate change has impact on built environment. Climate change has impact on communities in every single aspect of our community lives. One thing that I've been trying to do regarding the second part of your question is to try to bridge this gap, to try to show our engineers, civil engineers, geotechnical engineers, that climate change, that's something that we can also contribute. This is not something beyond our area of expertise. There is something that we need to contribute. And regardless of all those political controversies, as engineers, we have to treat that as another engineering problem, find engineering solutions. And that's the path that I've been trying to take. That's the area that I've been trying to contribute, to bridge this gap, to bring it to our daily engineering practice, something that everybody can believe that we can do something to address this issue, regardless of all those political controversies.
I think one thing for me personally, when the defense community got involved and the national security community got involved, I think that's when I thought, wow, this has made the jump and a broad swath of people is taking this more seriously. And I don't know, you still have the people out there who are deniers, but you can't, we have entire cities in this country that will cease to exist if the sea level rises more than 2 feet, so.
We can look at the data. We can look at the facts. Data tells a story. Just pay attention to data and facts. Look what's happening in the Arctic. Look what's happening for sea level rise around the country, around the world. Look what's happening with drought season. Look what's happening with floods. Look what happens with hurricanes. They ran out of names last year. Year after year, we are setting a new record in terms of billion-dollar disasters. There should be something, so.
Certainly, as we have been saying in the lead up to this conference, and we will say this week, it is very extreme. So we have 2 questions left. I think this one is interesting. I remember when I was about 9 years old and I was at baseball camp and I got on the local news fielding a ground ball, and I really felt like I was super famous at that moment. What do you consider your moment of greatest fame, where you felt like you were on the top of the world and everybody was going to see you, more than other times at least?
I guess there was a painting competition when I was in the 2nd grade. I think I was ranked 3rd or 4th. I don't know how many students submitted their painting, but I felt
hopefully not 3 or 4, right?
But I would say that was the greatest moment of my fame. But I still have to do more, so I still have a lot to do.
So now we need to know details about this. What did you paint?
That's a difficult one. I don't remember, but my artistic skills are very limited. Whenever I want to paint anything, it starts with like a house, very simple, and then like a tree, and then that's it. You know.
I like that you remember that you won an award, though, or that you placed in it, and that you have no idea what you painted. I mean, that's the important detail. You did well.
I remember the important part. You know, the details were not very, you know. Important.
That's great. So our final question here is to go back to Mississippi State. And I like this one. This is a fun one. I had to ask this. Anybody who knows Mississippi State well, it is in Starkville, Mississippi. People call it Stark Vegas. And I don't think this started as a complimentary thing. I don't know if you want to get into the history of that, but when did you first hear the term Stark Vegas, and what does it mean to you now?
Oh, that's a great question. Honestly, I don't know the history of the name Stark Vegas. One thing about the university, there is something interesting about the university. The campus, I would say, the campus is, I think, bigger than the border of the city. So for the name of the city, whenever we fill the address, we don't put Starkville, we put Mississippi State. And every time that I have to fill out a form, I get this error message that, put the right, like a city name. But the city name for campus is Mississippi State. But Starkville is a cozy southern college town, and the first time that I saw Stark Vegas was my first visit. I remember they were giving me a tour of town, and they were showing me there's this Highway 12, and it will take you 10 minutes to see the entire city. So that's it. And then I saw few places showing Stark Vegas, and I started asking, where is that Stark Vegas? And they said, here is Stark
You're
Vegas.
there.
Past Walmart, and that's Stark Vegas.
So yeah, it started out, I think, in the 80s as a way of saying that like a joke, that there was nothing to do there. And so people started calling it Stark Vegas. And I mean, now, especially if you watch college baseball or football or whatever, you'll hear people refer it as that. So we have to ask one bonus question here. You've been the technical chair for Geo-Extreme, and here we are after it feels like years of planning. We finally made it. What are you most excited about this week, or what are you most proud of about the conference?
The most exciting part is this is my first in-person event after Geo-Congress 2020
in Minneapolis.
Yeah, that's my first, and kind of feels weird to get back to, the crowd, and that's the most exciting part. In terms of what was the second question?
What are you most proud of in the conference?
I think all of us in the organizing committee and GI, we are very proud to be able to organize and have such an interdisciplinary event that we can address big picture problems, challenging problems related to extreme events, related to resiliency, related to climate change. In geotechnical engineering, there are several areas that we have to do better to take a leading role. And this is one of those areas that we can take a leading role to show different disciplines that we can be a key player. And I think that's the most important thing. This is the first experience of GI and us running a conference like Geo-Extreme, but I think we are all very proud of having this event.
And I think we are too. We put a lot into this. It's been at times agonizing. At other times it's been really exciting. And I think this week, I told somebody this morning that it was 30% nervousness, maybe 30% excitement, and 40% relief that we're here and it's happening and nobody's going to make us all go home. So Farshid, you made it through all the questions today. You did a great job, and congratulations for that. Everybody makes it through, but it's still an achievement. Again, to all you viewers, if you liked what you saw today, and I hope you did, subscribe, get notifications, and we will let you know every time we put something up on the YouTube channel. So Farshid, thanks again for doing this.
Thanks for having me. It was a great conversation.
These are fun. I love doing them every week. And goodbye from Savannah, and we will see everybody next week.